Welcome to Awaken Nation with Brett
Excellent.
Wallace, Dr. Wallach, and Dr. Randi Shannon.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Zales, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Hey, I've been wanting to follow up on this two-parter, ladies and gentlemen, because Dr. Randi Shannon was on our show before, and we've had extraordinary amounts of people not only write to me, but get on the bandwagon and get involved. And so what I wanted to do is have her mentor, the guy that just, I think, has been blowing my mind because I've been reading a lot of his work. And it's just been an amazing journey. But Dr. Joel Wallach, please welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you, Brad. And thank you for the opportunity to share with your followers.
Absolutely. Randi is a naturopathic doctor. Is that how you say it, Randi?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And so is Dr. Wallach. But Dr. Wallach, this is what blows my mind. You went from veterinarian medicine to now taking care of humans because you kind of saw something going on in animals that you started to make the connection. And I do this sometimes as well, but could you tell that story? I know you found some cysts in primates and it made no sense.
Well, it goes back farther than that. Actually starts when I was in veterinary school. Okay. 1963 was Christmas vacation time. All the professors were gone and I didn't have a lot of money. I was just a poor farm boy from Missouri. So I was working day and night in the pathology department and everybody was gone. And this farmer came in and he dumped 50 dead lambs on me. The night before, the 500 of his lambs were in perfect shape. He woke up that morning and all 500 were dead. And he brought me 50 of them. And to make a long story short, I found out that they had been getting poisoned with nitrates from the surrounding farms from fertilizer getting into their well and their drinking water. And the night that they all died, the temperature in central Missouri, which was in December, usually runs in the 40s and 50s, and had been running 40, 50. But the night they all died, it dropped down to 16, and they all died of hypothermia.
Wow.
Okay. And so I got it published. Okay. I submitted it, and it got published in 1965. To make a long story short, I spent 2 years in Africa working on the White Rhino Conservation Project. Back then, there was only 345 left, I think. And I caught 200 of them, shipped them to the big zoos in the United States. And we built wild animal parks for them in South Africa and Umfolozi and Shishlui game reserves in Zululand, Natal. 2 years. I was prepared to stay there forever. But the director of the St. Louis Zoo, Marlon Perkins, and Barry Commoner, who was a professor of biochemistry at the Washington University in St. Louis, they took my paper that had just been published and they got a $25 million grant with it.
Wow.
From NIH to study pollution in the big zoos in the big cities of the world so that when pollution would hit the big zoos, the animals in the zoo would die. They're kind of like the canary in the mine and people then could escape. That was the whole purpose of the study. To make it very short, in 10 years, I did 20,000 autopsies. Let's see here, 17,000 some change over 450 species of animals and 3,000 humans. It got published as a book. W.B. Saunders, biggest, you may remember, W.B. Saunders, biggest medical textbook publishing company.
Wow.
They sold for $25,000 each. They published 90,000 of them and they sold them all in 90 days. At $25,000 each, because they showed there were no genetically transmitted diseases, there were no autoimmune diseases, and that freaked everybody out. I mean, it freaked everybody out, and so that's how that all happened. And after that 10-year study, to make a long story short, my next job was at the Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, with the Yerkes Primate Center for NASA. And one of these space monkeys was going to go into space at 6 months of age, died. And I did an autopsy on him. He had cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis was supposed to be a genetic disease of humans. And so I showed that it was really just a nutritional deficiency, and they fired me because I said that it was a nutritional deficiency, not genetic, and they fired me. And that's when I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician.
Wow.
Because I knew that the medical profession was missing it by a long distance. And of course, the rest is history. And just, an honor to be a naturopathic physician alongside of our dear friend here.
It's astounding how the FDA, and I don't want to knock the FDA, it's just astounding how you really have to bang on that door to prove your point nowadays. Everything has to fall into certain boxes or they don't take it seriously.
Okay, well, I knew that, Brad, back then, because, I already had several scientific papers. And so I got permission because I knew it was cystic fibrosis because they took the slides of that dead monkey. And I didn't tell anybody it was a monkey. I just sent 5 of those to 5 different medical schools. And I said, I think this is cystic fibrosis. What do you think? And they all sent me back on their letterhead, 1978. Yes, it was absolutely cystic fibrosis. And so, I put it all together and I was going to publish it, but you had to submit it for approval. And that's when they fired me. But I said it wasn't genetic because here's these 28 different monkeys. They all had cystic fibrosis and they weren't related. They had different mothers and fathers and all this kind of stuff. And we found out that the behaviors were tinkering with the diet. Okay. And they took away the monkey pellets, all the vitamins and minerals, and just gave them fruit and vegetables. And that's why they were deficient. And that's why they all had cystic fibrosis.
Wow.
And so, just to make a long story short, again, in 2015, I got the Klaus Schwarz Award. I think it was 2015.
Yeah, I saw that. Congratulations. Yeah.
Or 2011. It was one or the other, 2011, 2015. I got the Klaus Schwarz Award for that discovery. Very, very proud of that. And was nominated twice for a Nobel Prize. Didn't get the Nobel Prize, but getting nominated is pretty cool.
That is.
And so at any rate, over these years, I've been blessed to work with so many great people and all over the world. We're in 80 countries, and I have now proven there are no genetically transmitted diseases. There are no autoimmune diseases. And so this is what I teach in my talks is that, I go through all the major autoimmune diseases that are not autoimmune. I go through all the genetic diseases that are not genetic, and it freaks everybody out.
It does. I was watching a special on television. I don't know if it was 60 Minutes, and this guy was talking about all the things they were doing in the genetic, the fields of genetics, and they had analyzed him, and he said, I'm supposed to be blind, and I'm supposed to have it, and he listed all the diseases he's supposed to genetically have. And the interviewer goes, well, do you have any of those? And he goes, oh no. And then he goes, well, I'm confused. Does it work, your analysis, or doesn't it? And so, I would talk a little bit about that. But Randi, you have followed Dr. Wallach's work for so long. What was it that made you really just go, hey, this is it? Because I know you tested it, obviously, but what made you just go, this is the secret sauce that most people are missing?
Well, I had gone to one of Dr. Wallach's lectures, and I want to say it was actually out in Red Rock, out in Las Vegas, out in your backyard. And I just sat in the crowd and was just absolutely mesmerized. I mean, this information it just smashes the whole medical industry as you know it. And these guys wouldn't be living in gigantic houses and having multiple fancy cars if they actually followed Dr. Wallach's proven science. I mean, he has proved this. And then he sent it out, and then he spread the word, and this information gets squashed. And it's really only the holistic field, the naturopathic doctors, people like me, and people that are involved in his company that get this word out, because there's an entire multi-gazillion dollar industry that makes a fortune, people that are making a fortune from the opposite of the truth. And they treat it as if it is truth, and people have bought into it. And because they, own the media, so to speak, Dr. Wallach's word has to get out by word of mouth. So I sat in that crowd and I listened, and I was just like, this is it. This is my calling. This is my life. This is why I'm here. This is what I needed to hear. Boom, that set me on the path.
Yeah.
See why Dr. Randy's so special.
I see. It was very interesting, and we talked about this in our first interview. When I first met Randy, it was quite by accident. She was at a rally that I happened to be at the same time, and I noticed on Facebook, I've been following you for years, Randy, and I was like, oh, she knows what she's talking about, because I'm good friends with several naturopaths, including my good friend Robert Scott Bell, who I've known for like 30 years, and he has his own syndicated show. So I'm like sitting there, and I see that Randy the next day is posting pictures from the same rally, and I'm like, wait a minute, where are you? And you're like, I'm in Vegas. I go, well, I'm just down the road. So we started hanging out. And much of what you were talking about, Randy, which tied into Dr. Wallach's work, was the reversing of aging. And some of the symptoms I had, you started helping me to reverse that. And it boils down to getting and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not the scientist here or the doctor, but there was like 120 minerals plus essential fatty acids and a bunch of other things that you stated, you got to have this. And some of this tied into the blue zone work that was coming out. Dr. Wallach, you were looking into, and maybe you can comment on this. There were a lot of things in the blue zone study, which is where they went all over the world and they looked at people who lived past 100, and they were leaving out one of the biggest essential parts. And that was, what were they eating, but what was in the soil that was giving that nutritional boost that no one else was getting. So if you both want to comment on that, I would love to get your feedback on that, because it isn't just nutrition, it's the way we get this into our bodies.
Well, I will say Dr. Wallach is more of an expert on the blue zones, and he has studied. What's really interesting about Dr. Wallach is, he's in the book.
Immortality. He's holding up a book called Immortality.
Exactly.
That's great.
And he's pulled articles and studied these people that had longevity. And he pulled it all together and put that book together. So, Dr. Wallach, you take it.
Dr. Randy, it was a 5-year study. We went to many of these places, and the others, we studied them from a distance, and all the things have been written about them. And what it is that they consciously avoid, and what it is they consciously proactively do. Okay, they're very special people. These are not just people just doing every simple thing that everybody else is doing. No.
Right.
They made very serious choices. And of course, that's why they live 25 to 50 years longer than anybody else. We're doing everything wrong. I repeat that. We're doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
We rank 54th in the world when it comes to life expectancy. We rank 54th.
Wow.
We spend more money for healthcare than all the other nations in the world combined. And yet we rank 54th in life expectancy. And that's because doctors will tell you, just eat well, you get everything you need. Well, it came close to being true in certain areas of the world. Let's go back in time. And let's go back, before the Old Testament. Okay, let's go back before the Old Testament. And the universal fuel was wood and coal. People would burn wood and coal, and they would put the wood ashes into their gardens so that their plants could suck up the minerals. They didn't know that, but the plants were sucking up the minerals that were in the wood ashes and the coal ashes. Now, the coal ashes and wood ashes were 98% minerals and 3% carbon. And that went all the way through until, let's see here. Let's go to 3:00 in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, in the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, when Thomas Edison pulled the switch in the first commercial electric generating plant in 1882. By 1900, almost everybody in America was obese. And the doctors said, just stop eating animal fat and eat whole grains and you'll slim down. Well, the reason why everybody was obese, they had a behavior called pica, P-I-C-A. And pica is a behavior that's caused by lack of minerals. In animals, it's called cribbing. Okay, well, and even in babies, it's called cribbing, where they chew on the top rail of the crib.
Right.
They're looking for nutrients. Okay, and when you can't find anything to satisfy you, you just eat more. The record in weight for human women is 1,200 pounds. The record in weight for a human man is 1,400 pounds.
Wow.
Okay, and I see so many patients now by the hundreds every month who are 300 to 500 pounds. Okay, in 80 different countries. I work in 80 different countries. So I deal with this a lot. Obesity is a big thing, part of the metabolic syndrome thing. And these are the sort of things that doctors love. Arthritis, we spend $626.8 billion a year just treating the symptoms of arthritis, not preventing or curing it. $626.8 billion. When you get to diabetes, we spend $342 billion a year just to treat the symptoms, not to prevent it or cure it. When it comes to obesity, we spend $210 to $260 billion a year. So if you're obese and you have arthritis and diabetes, you're contributing to over $1 trillion a year of income to the medical system.
Wow.
And you're not going to get well. You will die 25 to 50 years early.
Wow. I've always thought this, I hate to say it, I'm a Star Trek fan since 1966. And there was an episode called The Trouble with Tribbles. And in that, they were going to kill, I know this, I'm tying it all in. Just hold on. It all makes sense at the end. What happened is they had this grain, tritoketotraline. My memory serves me well. And what it was is the more you eat, the more you were starving to death. So you had to eat even more. So here you are getting fat, obese, but you're dying because you're not getting any nutrition in your body. And that always sat in the back of my head. And right now you're actually explaining that that's what's happening.
That's correct. Because you need those nutrients, 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 minerals, 3 fatty acids. And the U.S. Senate came out in 1936 and published a study that they had done, the U.S. Senate. Okay, we're not talking about some ragtag idiot group. We're talking about the U.S. Senate. Right. 1936, they came out and said, U.S. Senate document 264, you can look it up, U.S. Senate document 264, there's no longer sufficient minerals in our soil to support human life. It was U.S. Senate document 264, 1936. Okay, now, this is one of those things where this is unimpeachable evidence. And it's one of those things where I've spent a lot of time around the world with various cultures. And some of the things are pretty scary. For instance, nutritional minerals do not occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like gold and silver. And so you can have a twin brother or sister and be eating the same recipes, and they live 3 states away or 3 counties away, and they might be getting 25 or 30 minerals because of the minerals in the soil where they're at, and you're only getting 3. And so you could be eating the same thing. You'd be identical twins, and they're going to live to be 92, and you're going to die at 56.
This is the secret. Yeah, go ahead, Randi. Sorry to interrupt.
I've seen those topographical maps of, say, selenium in the ground, which is just astounding. If I grow a head of lettuce down here in Miami, but I'm not going to get any selenium in it. But if I grow a head of lettuce in Minnesota or Wisconsin, guess what? I'm going to have some selenium in my food. It's pretty amazing. Yeah,
it is. Speaking of which, let's talk about selenium, because it is one of the cornerstones for heart health, from what I understand. And I'm taking a lot of the products that you guys have recommended. But Randi reached out last week and said, hey, you got to get on your heart. So let's talk about heart health along with this, because we're also going to talk about Randi's extraordinary hair, and Dr. Wallach's as well. They don't dye their hair,
no, that's
folks.
True.
And I stopped dyeing my hair. I'm letting it, it's gray now, but it's starting to get dark up here just because I'm starting to take the minerals and also focusing on copper. But if you just focus on copper, you could still have a heart attack. So let's talk about heart health as well.
Okay. Well, I'll start out by saying I'm the guy that got rid of cystic fibrosis. That was my first thing with that monkey, was cystic fibrosis. Okay. Right. And it turns out that it was a mineral deficiency. I'll get to that in a minute. And then I'm the guy, Jerry Lewis was one of my heroes. Okay. Right. And I found out the cause, prevention, and cure for muscular dystrophy. And I gave it to Jerry Lewis. And the reason why they fired him, he brought them the cure, prevention of muscular dystrophy based on all my work. He took it to them, okay? And I purposely didn't go there because I didn't want to be a distraction as a naturopathic doctor.
Right.
I figured if anybody could get it done, it would be Jerry Lewis. And they terminated him on the Friday night before the telethon. And they banned him from, they shut down the telethon so he could not get on there and jump on the stage and grab the microphone and tell the story. And that's where he disappeared.
Yeah.
Because they fired him and shut down the telethon when he brought them what they said they were looking for, the cause, prevention, cure of muscular dystrophy. As a side benefit, I also got rid of sudden death syndrome. All three of those are caused by the same deficiency. And my attorney and I, Jonathan Emord, we spent years and years and years and years fighting in federal court. And finally, we won in federal court to put these minerals, including selenium, into baby formulas. Okay. And have you heard much about cystic fibrosis in the last 15, 20 years? No.
No, not at all.
Have you heard much about muscular dystrophy anymore?
No.
No. Have you heard much more about about the sudden death syndrome?
No.
No. Well, sudden death syndrome is caused by hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease, which is the same cause of death of young athletes who die in their 30s and 40s and 50s. We have 500 to 1,000 die each year in America. Okay. Now, I have to tell you, have you ever heard of Evander Holyfield?
Yes.
Okay. Now, he was heavyweight champion, and he lost his heavyweight championship to Michael Moore because he couldn't answer the bell for the final round because he had a near fatal heart attack.
Wow.
Okay. And to make a long story short, Pastor Creflo Dollar introduced me to him. Okay. And I put him on our program for heart health and so forth, including selenium. He came back a year later and beat Iron Mike Tyson and got his championship back. Now, who comes back from a near fatal heart attack to beat somebody like Iron Mike Tyson to win a heavyweight title fight? You got to be kidding me. Okay. Now, sudden death syndrome was caused by hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease. It wasn't the mother laying on the babies. They actually said, and remember that they've said, death syndrome, the mothers were laying on the babies and suffocating them. Now, how stupid is that? Okay. Yeah. It was really just a simple nutritional deficiency, and we got it in federal court. NIH had to put those minerals into the baby formulas, Enfamil, Similac, and the like. And suddenly now all these baby diseases disappeared. And that's why I got the Klaus Schwartz Award. Okay. And I also got, let's see here, the Lifetime Achievement Award on Natural Medicine from the United Nations in 19.
You're kidding. I'm applauding. I know you can't hear me, but wow.
That's me sitting in the main offices of the United Nations in New York, okay, getting that award.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it.
There was other things that were stopped by them getting the selenium in there as well. It was one in how many kids was being born a cyclops, which was never spoken of. 200 some odd kids, I think. Every
one eye in the middle of the forehead, cyclopic eye. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got rid of about 100 different diseases. I mean, got rid of them just by putting those nutrients in the baby formulas.
And imagine the government actually fought that. Being born healthy and normal and families not being torn apart.
The government fought against it. All the medical doctors, and all the medical divisions of the U.S. government fought against it. But we had enough information. We had unimpeachable information. And remember, I don't know if I told you, but my thesis that I did on those 20,000 autopsies, at Washington University, $25 million study. They brought me back from Africa to be the pathologist on that project. Mm-hmm. It's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. So when they presented my thesis, which sold for $25,000 each, it's in the Smithsonian Institute, yet today is a national treasure. Who can argue with that? What drunk medical doctor can argue against that?
They'll argue over a lot of things. I hate to say it. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for probably 35 years. I've talked with all these different professionals, from chemists to oncologists, you name it. And I know just enough to be dangerous, and I'm listening to them. And sometimes I'm just scratching my head like, are you serious what you just said? You're holding up the book. Dead doctors don't lie. Yes. It's very true. I remember the day, ladies and gentlemen, when doctors would smoke while they were examining you. So you remember
That
that?
is true. Oh, yes, sir.
So
And remember, the average lifespan of medical doctors is 56.
what?
The life expectancy of medical doctors is 56. Ask Siri, look it up. Okay.
Oh my
It'll
goodness.
freak you out. Okay. And that's because they, again, falsely believe that you can eat well and get everything you need. Now, you could eat well before electricity and live longer than you're living now. Okay. Why did the slaves live to be 90 and 100 and the slave owners died in their 50s?
Yeah.
Because the slaves were getting all the wood ashes to put in their gardens. And the slave owners were getting food from England, and they weren't putting any nutrition in their foods, in their gardens.
That's incredible.
In dog food than they do in, baby.
Say that again, Randy.
They put more nutrients in dog food than they do in anything for people.
That's true.
Because if they keep it out of the people food, then that fosters the medical community as we know it. But if they put it in the dog food or the food that's fed to the cows, and this is Dr. Wallach's whole world right there, then the cows don't get sick. Otherwise, a hamburger would be what? $256, probably about $500 a hamburger right now.
Wow. Dr. Wallach's holding up a book, Black Gene Lies.
Yeah, so that's what this describes all the reasons why the slaves lived twice as long as the slave owners.
They were getting all the nutrition.
That's correct. They were.
And here's the funny part. If you've ever been to the South and you've had ham hocks and collard greens, all this is the food that actually the slave owners didn't want to eat. And so they're eating it and they're putting it in their gardens and they're growing stuff and they're actually healthier. That's amazing. Randy, you want to talk a little bit about this, because when we were in the green room before we started, this nutrition is incredibly important. We're not getting it in our food supply. So you actually have to start taking nutritional supplements, but vitamins aren't working. It isn't the vitamins, it's the minerals that are doing it. And your blonde hair, which is not dyed at your age, is extraordinary. Go ahead. Yeah, say your age.
I'm 54. It is a culmination of vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, amino acids. Okay, so it's not just one thing, which we were talking about before we came on, because
right.
You mentioned one thing that you were upping, and at the end of the day, okay, so if somebody's hair goes gray or white or silver or starts falling out, the body, if you think about when somebody gets into an accident, and it's an emergency type of situation, and their body goes into shock. Okay, what is the brain doing? It's pulling everything it has from the arms, the legs, even the mouth. You start talking gibberish, or then you can't talk at all, and then you go unconscious. The body is saying, okay, everything can die. Y'all can die, but if that heart dies, we're all dead. So we got to keep that heart alive. So it takes everything and just puts it towards the vital organs that are like in disarray, that are imbalanced, that are in trouble. And so if your hair goes gray or white, it's pulling the nutrients from there and transporting them somewhere else, if they're even being put in. Okay, if they're even getting them. So just because the hair is going gray doesn't mean it's just a hair problem. It might be a heart problem. Most likely it is a heart problem, and that's why it's pulling those nutrients away. So you can't just focus on, okay, I need copper in the body because my hair's going gray. No, it's something else more vital.
The medical approach would be just to dye your hair.
That's correct.
It's so true. I'll say this real quick. Whenever I try to convince somebody to go to a naturopathic doctor, they kind of look at me like, well, why would I do that? My regular doctor does this. I said, I'll tell you why. When I go to a regular medical doctor who's steeped in the Western medicine mindset of surgery and pharmaceuticals, I'll walk in and they'll check me and they'll say, your blood pressure's a little high, but you're in great shape for your age, and maybe lose a little weight and get your butt out there and do this. Now, if I go to a naturopathic doctor, they're going to look at me immediately And they go, you got a little problem with your liver there. Do you drink a lot of alcohol? And I also see you're not getting enough water. And they don't even have to look that far. They know the warning signs. And they go, oh, you're not getting enough selenium. You're not getting enough of this nutrition. How are your essential fatty acids? They will break it down and tell me, well, you're going to have heart problems soon, and you're going to have a liver issue if you don't do something to reverse that. So it's more in depth. It's more of homeopathic, meaning the entire structure of the body. One thing is causing another thing, which is causing another. Let's get to the core and feed that properly. And so I always find that fascinating. You guys will discover something in a patient that a regular Western doctor, medical doctor who was trained, let's say at Johns Hopkins, would miss all of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just at a funeral a couple months ago of someone that was real dear to me. It was one of my best friend's husband, and never thought that he would go before her. Thought it would be reversed, and we had that conversation, and that was based on many reasons. And I told her a couple years ago that he was in trouble, and I said, it's his heart, most likely. And there was the signs, and he would do nothing. He didn't listen to anything. He drank a pot of coffee a day. Only believed in prescriptions, didn't believe in taking a vitamin or a mineral, and he's gone. And the week before, he had gone and had a stress test because he had a knee replacement. Dr. Wallach's like cringing. He had a knee replacement surgery coming up. He wouldn't listen to me, Dr. Wallach shows. So, and they gave him all clear. He was good. 1 week later.
Yeah. And by the way, I've heard this story multiple times, where somebody goes to, a doctor who went to Juniata, let's say, and they got all the tests, and they go, you're in great shape, Bill. Get out of here. And they drop dead a week later. Look at Jim Fix. He was the big runner back in the 70s and the 80s, and died of a heart attack while running.
They can spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on all of that equipment, and it doesn't mean a hill of beans in most cases. If people just understood how to look at their own body and read their own signs, which they don't because we're not taught any of this. And the pyramid from the word go was a lie. So,
well, a lot of the doctors that I've worked with through the years, the Western medical doctors that have examined me while smoking, by the way, sometimes they are all dead, just so you know. And the naturopaths would use several ways to diagnose me. So the first one was iridology, which was to look at the parameters of the eyes, where they're bloodshot and things like that. You, Dr. Randi, you use the tongue as a way to look at it. And then some other people, and I was taught this at 10 years of age. Okay, this is 1973. I was taught reflexology by my father because he wanted to test it on himself, my mother, and myself. And so reflexology, I had one doctor who would do iridology and reflexology on me to double check everything to tell me which organs were out of whack. Now, some of you who may be listening right now, you might be rolling your eyes, but I'm going to tell you this. Every single organ in the body has a nerve system that connects it to the spinal column. Okay. And it's the full trackway. Think of it as a train track. That nerve system goes from the spinal cord to the organ, and then it ends in certain areas, parameters that are used in acupuncture at the ends of your hands, at the bottoms of your feet. And we also have meridians that run the entire length of your body. Now, if you don't believe this, I'm a martial artist, and I got through a lot of my training with younger people because I knew the pressure points, and I could hit the kidney meridian on anybody I was fighting, and they would drop like a stone. So it's all connected. It's all about your head. Dr. Wallach is holding up another book. What's the subtitle on that? It's all in your head. Yes, that's fantastic. So all these things, your organs, are connected throughout your entire body. And the nerve endings actually end your eyeballs, which are very fine fibers, which have crystals in them, the ends of your fingers and your hands and your palms and the bottom of your feet. And if you've ever had a reflexology session, you will confirm what I said, because if you have a heart issue and they take your left foot and they dig right in the center between the ball of your foot or even in your hand, you will scream. Okay. So people like to say, well, this is, how could you use this? It's science, period. And it's 5,000-year-old science. So that's a fantastic book, Dr. Wallach. Did you help write that one as well?
Yes, this is a book that Dr. Milano and I wrote. And there's 37 different diseases you get when you have osteoporosis of the skull.
What?
There's 37 different diseases. We get osteoporosis. Have you ever heard of AFib, atrial fibrillation?
Yes, yes.
It's not a heart disease. It's actually osteoporosis of the skull squeezing the 10th cranial nerve, which causes the heart to beat irregularly. And if they'll cut you open, they'll use a hot branding iron on your heart to cause the heart to die, ablation, all this kind of stuff. Is a very, very terrible disease, causing death-causing treatment, ablation. And when you have atrial fibrillation, it's not even a heart disease. It's osteoporosis of the skull squeezing the 10th cranial nerve, which is causing the heart to beat irregularly. And you treat the osteoporosis of the skull and your AFib goes away.
Well, hold on. This is hitting something that Randy helped me with last year, Dr. Randi Shannon. About 2 or 3 years ago, I got diagnosed with periodontal disease. Okay. And Dr. Randy, you actually reached out and said, no, that you have osteoporosis of the skull. And we started getting on a program. I actually have some of these products here. I don't mean to plug them, but bone building was number one. And then we had the Osteo Effects, which also was helping immensely. I take this every day as well, along with my, I take the tangy tangerine, by the way, which I learned about from Randy just hanging out with her. She goes, here, take these. So let's talk about that. Randy, please, because you really saved my life. I mean, I was getting sick and I couldn't figure out why, and my family doesn't age like everybody else. So I was sitting there going, I gotta find out what's going on. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, my expertise, I mean, Dr. Wallach, he just hears what's going on and he's like, and he's got everything. He's legendary. So my expertise is I look at the face, the fingernails, the tongue, the top and bottom of the tongue, and then any other marks of concern on the body. So I actually read those signs. That's my thing. That's what I love to do. For example, when I look at the fingernails, I can tell if there's maybe a melanoma issue, a cancer issue, internal bleeding. I definitely see osteoporosis there.
Right.
Kidney issues will show up there. All kinds of amazing things will show up there. And then I take those issues, whatever it is I find, and then I use the longevity products for those people, and all of a sudden, voila, their issues are reversed, and everyone thinks it's so amazing. And really, their body was just completely devoid of everything. And so then we target. So the face will tell me if there's a spleen, a liver, a kidney, even a heart issue is very, very prominent on the face. Large and small intestine, male, female productive systems. It all shows. And so then when I see those signs, if it made it there, then it was already screaming long before. And so then I put together a protocol that targets that. Right. And then I use Dr. Wallach's, what he calls, and I've now called, the sledgehammer, which is his brain and heart pack, which is amazing. I take it every single day. All of my kids take it. I have 4 sons. All of them take it. Yep. And, all of a sudden everybody gets better.
That's incredible. Yeah. I will tell you this, my neighbors in Vegas thought I was nuts because I would take photographs of my tongue in the sunlight so that Randy could see both the top and the bottom. So they're like, what the hell's wrong with that guy? But it was really about health. And before Randy actually, Dr. Shannon, when you were examining me and then my tongue issue, before I even told you some of my symptoms, you were already listing them. And I was like shocked without touching me. It was just look at the tongue. And one of the major issues was not the thyroid, but I had digestive issues, huge. I had a crack running down the center of my tongue. And you were like, oh boy. And so we started working on that. Also a mild infection that we were working on and things like that. So ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the whole point of this interview is to let you understand that you can reverse almost every single disease there is. And by the way, Dr. Wallach, this is why I got on board right away with Dr. Shannon. My father and many other people in the field, the naturopathic field, they always said, and I'm a firm believer of this, you can reverse any disease with the right nutrition or the right lock and key. You know, there is nothing we can't, just get rid of. And so Dr. Wallach is putting up another book, Rare Earths Forbidden Cures. Is that what it says?
Very good.
Yes. Yeah.
Helps you do your own tests, so you don't have to go to a doctor in the beginning if you don't want to. Or if you go to the doctor and you're not happy with what they said, or you are happy with them, you can still do your own. Rare Earths Forbidden Cures tells you how to collect hair, how to package it, where to ship it. And it'll tell you where all of your 90 essential nutrients are. Okay.
Right.
You get a hair analysis back in about 2 weeks. It tells you have toxic metals like lead and mercury and uranium and all that kind of stuff. But it also tells you where all your nutritional minerals are, if they're right where they need to be, if they're low, if they're high, why they're high, and so forth. And so that book is worth the investment because you can do a lot of the lab work the doctor will never do. You'll do a lot of the lab work that a medical doctor will never do.
Well, I'll let everybody in on a little secret. If you go to your regular physician, your general practitioner, 50% of the time they're guessing. And the reason they're guessing is over 250 diseases have the exact same symptoms. Okay, so they will go in. Now, I went to a doctor in Vegas before I met Randy, and he did a blood analysis for me, which I was very grateful for. My testosterone was incredibly low. It was about 358. It should be around 800 to 1200. But he forgot to do a thyroid check. And a lot of my symptoms actually were coming from thyroid issues because, my mom had it or whatever. So it's not genetic. I never believed it was genetic. We're eating the same nutritionally lacking foods and styles. It's like the same thing. If a family gets the same disease, chances are they ate the same piece of beef that had the same parasite in it. So they're all getting, pancreatic problems, let's say, because they have the fluke, the beef cattle pancreatic fluke in their pancreas. And now they have diabetic issues and pancreatitis. So, it's all interconnected to what we put in our mouth. It's all interconnected to that fork and what we're putting in. Now, Dr. Wallach, you said why we are missing all this nutrients in our food and everything. But today it's more important than ever to understand the science of this. And this is why I love having people like you on my show, because it is so easy to shift your diet and maintain your health as you get older.
Correct. You shift your diet and you take the right things. And this is where that book, Rare Earths Forbidden Cures, tells you which ones you need more than others. And again, going back to those 500 sheep that died one night from hypothermia, that's because their thyroid was being damaged by the nitrates coming in for the 6 months of their life. And when that temperature dropped, their thyroids couldn't maintain the body temperature and they all died of hypothermia. Okay. And so that was a thyroid issue. And
wow.
That was my beginning. That was my first published scientific article. And I entitled it Hypothyroidism in Sheep. It was more important than that. Okay. It was more important than that. But that's what I entitled it. And
that was the beginning. That was the beginning of it all.
That was the beginning of it all. And so your thyroid gland, we have all kinds of thyroid products. Ocean's Gold. We take the minerals from the seaweed and the plankton and the algae and all that kind of stuff from oceans. We also have the fucoid Z from another ocean. We take Z radical, which is one of our favorites. It looks like red wine and tastes a little bit like red wine, but it's got all those minerals in there. And if you want a happy thyroid, I don't care if you've got, and doctors say you've got a autoimmune disease in your thyroid gland, it's not working. You need to take it out and put you on thyroid hormones. Well, give us 90 days first before you do all that, because the odds are your doctor is going to die before the thyroid does.
And if I can throw in there, it's epidemic levels of doctors removing those right now. We're just taking a clip of them. Let me just take a portion of it.
Yeah.
And I actually show on my Instagram page, instagram.com/thebodycan. I have a photo of a woman there in 1 month. The goiter is massive in her throat area. And we do a photo 30 days later, and there's a huge gap because the goiter dropped down so much just in 30 days. And we're continuing. It's almost gone. It's almost completely gone. You don't need to lose a thyroid. You don't need to lose it.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish that last sentence you were saying.
And the goiters will go away with the products that Dr. Wallach is talking about.
It's so true. I don't know what happened, because if you went back to let's say the 1950s, and a woman, they found lumps in her breasts, they would automatically get her on iodine, some sort of something to shrink down all the stuff. We are deficient in so many things. Iodine, copper. There are 20 causes of disease that are directly linked to a copper deficiency. Selenium deficiency, iodine deficiency. It's crazy. Yes, pick up Rare Earths, Forbidden Cures.
Let me actually just throw in Dr. Wallach's site. That's actually, you can get all the books he's showing at drj, the letter J, Wallach.com. All the books, CDs, everything. He's got tons of them. There's so much amazing information there. drjwallach.com. Get it all there.
So you're the original Dr. J. Is that correct? Randi, I still want you to talk about your hair. I know the women who listen to your show, they wrote to me and they were just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." I think we had like 280 views on the YouTube version in the first week. And it's just like people were going nuts over this. But you sent something to me in the mail about the hypothalamus as well. So it isn't just like copper deficiency, or it's a big combination. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, one of the things that really is shocking to so many people is I heard this interview, and I don't know who the guy was, but I heard it on a bigger show. Might have been like George Norrie, but I don't think it was. I think it was like Alex Jones. But there was a man on there, and he was coming on the hair scene really big, like a Paul Mitchell. Right. And for whatever reason, he took all of his students over to see cadavers, and all of the heads were cut open all the way to the skull bone. And the skull bone was whatever color they dyed their hair. So the bone, if they were dyeing their hair brown, it was brown. The skin is the largest organ on the body, and whatever you're putting on it is going to be in the body probably 4 to 5 seconds from the time you put it in there, and rotate it around the whole entire body, and maybe 8 to 10 seconds. It's very quick. And so if they were dyeing their hair red or blonde or whatever, that is like my whole life. Thank God I'm Norwegian and Swedish. I have good, that line in there of that blonde hair is so dominant. But at the time, I am constantly putting the minerals, the essential fatty acids, the amino acids, the vitamins in my body. It's in one particular product called Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and it's just this powder. You just scoop it in. You take the pill, Brad. It's slightly different. I'll let Dr. Wallach actually tell the difference. But I use the powder and the pill both because one has higher antioxidant, but the one powder is all my hair. And
really?
I don't color my hair, and it's all the hair. And then I take some collagen peptides, just to strengthen that. I'll let Dr. Wallach talk about those individually, but I don't stop because I love maintaining my hair. I'm the only one of my entire circle of friends that doesn't color my hair, and they've been doing it since their 30s. Some of them in their
I got that stress gray back when I was 38 or so, because I was running a publicly traded company. So I got this, like Morticia from the Addams Family. I had a white streak right here, and I couldn't figure out what it was because I'm only in my 30s. I shouldn't be gray. So I got away from the company and my hair kind of returned to normal. But it wasn't until I really, really shifted everything, my diet and everything, We're not talking about this because of vanity, folks. Your hair, your eyes, your ability to run up a set of stairs is a part of a bigger issue, a much bigger issue. And so for me, when I started to notice that I was gaining weight around the face, my teeth weren't doing so well. My hair was starting to get grayer. In Vegas, my hair returned to its natural color, but then it started to go a little bit white on top, partially because I was out in the sun a lot. But I also had the nutritional deficiencies going on. So what I started doing, because I'm on TV sometimes, so, I touch it up, but I stopped dyeing it completely because Randy, actually, you had a picture of those skeletons. It wasn't just the cadavers. They had skeletons lined up from people who had dyed their hair, and all around the skull, the bone, it was either red or brown or blonde. And it was a band of literally like if somebody had taken ink and run it around the skull. And that, yeah. And that woke me up. I went, oh my God. Yeah. A lot of our products, ladies and gentlemen, from, shampoo to soaps, they are actually causing problems. And Dr. Wallach is now holding up two of the products that you can get at youngevity.com. Dr. Wallach is one of the co-founders of Youngevity, but it is the Tangerine, the mineral complex. This gives you, 120 of the minerals that you need.
Actually, you get 75 minerals, and you get a total of 215 nutrients. And the EPAs provide the essential fatty acids. Okay, so you get 215 nutrients with these two. Okay,
right.
Now there's a little bit of confusion because we do have another one, this BTT, 2.0 in tablets, which you mentioned, and this is primarily antioxidants, and pain reliever. It is not a replacement for this. These are not interchangeable. I take them both, but this will not replace this. Okay, so if you want pain relief, you want anti-inflammatory stuff, reduce swelling, take this one with this one.
Okay.
Take this in place of this one.
And actually, if they want it, Brad, what I want them to do is not go to the corporate site because I want to make sure that they get the wholesale pricing. So I want them to go to, they can just dial in and we'll get them set up with wholesale and it'll be affiliated with you. It's 844-275-1056. So we can get it to them at wholesale pricing, shipped straight to their door. 844-275-1056 and mention Brad, and then we'll make sure that you get it at the wholesale pricing.
Thank you.
And
that is fantastic.
Get on our ship, I will pay the shipping for them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very nice.
It's that simple. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and trust me, I love my Pennsylvania Dutch foods. But we would eat pork and sauerkraut and mashed potatoes with gravy when I was growing up, and nobody had heart problems. Okay. So it's something happened along the way where the nutrition was sucked out of the soil, out of the things we're eating, out of what we're growing. They're feeding animals differently as well. Electricity happened. Well, I wonder what's going to happen now with the 5G. So every time we have a piece of technology that steps up to the plate, we get zapped with something, because I have to be very careful with EMRs. And I think electromagnetic radiation, hits the throat right here. This is a very soft tissue area. So I'm guessing that's part of why thyroid issues are on the rise. A lot of other things as well. So, but this has been fascinating. There's a great story, and I want Dr. Wallach to tell this one. It's when you were giving a lecture, and I think it was an ophthalmologist or someone in the eye profession, and they said, no way. And you challenged him to take all his patients who were supposedly legally blind and reverse all that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it happens so much, but basically, when you have osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the optic nerve, the optic artery, and the optic vein, you go blind. Okay. And so when you give all 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids, and then give them these people 3 eggs twice a day with soft yolks, because 25% of your brain weight is cholesterol, 25% of your spinal cord weight is cholesterol. And so your hypothalamus and your optic nerve, none of that will work without the cholesterol. You need those things, okay? And so when you're taking your 90 essential nutrients, you're taking your cholesterol, and the osteoporosis in the skull goes away, takes the pressure off those nerves. Okay, we actually have a CD. Dr. Rebecca Kozak and I did a CD on this, okay, by the same title. It's all in your head, and it goes to everything from MS, multiple sclerosis, which is supposed to be, the big autoimmune disease. No, it's just because when you take the drugs statin drugs to reduce your cholesterol and get off of eggs, your white matter of your brain, you get demyelinization, your white matter of your brain dies, you get MS, multiple sclerosis, you get Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is primarily in kids with MS. And it's all just simple nutritional deficiency diseases. And we treat, I don't know how many thousands a day all over the world. We're in 80 countries. And this book and the CD, it's all in your head, deals with over 37 different diseases that doctors will send you to their classmates who became specialists in dental work, eye stuff, hearing, neurological things. And my one question I always ask people to see if they have severe osteoporosis of the skull is, how many times a night do you wake up to go urinate?
Right.
You're not supposed to wake up at night to urinate. So if you wake up 3, 5, 8, 10 times a night to urinate, you have osteoporosis of the skull squeezing the spinal cord. And your spinal cord is telling your urinary bladder to urinate. And I know it's the urinary bladder because it happens in women. It's not a prostate thing. Women don't have prostate glands.
That's interesting. Wow. Before I started with Dr. Randi, I was getting up 3 times a night, because I'm in my mid to late 50s. And now I wake up maybe at 6 in the morning to use the bathroom.
Yeah. So you have to appreciate that osteoporosis of the skull, babies are born with it. Babies can be born with osteoporosis of the skull. It's a nutritional deficiency. It's not an aging thing. They get Erb's palsy, which they call cerebral palsy. It's called Erb's palsy. Is caused by osteoporosis of the skull in a newborn baby. And but people of all ages get osteoporosis of the skull, and they go to all these different specialists, and they get the symptomatic treatment, which Dr. Randi is very good about teaching. Symptomatic treatment gives you a little bit of relief, but you're going to be in big, deep trouble 6 months, a year, 2 years later if you don't really get down to the bottom root cause. And so I suggest that many people will see her. Okay. I like the non-invasive tongue diagnoses. Okay, the hair analysis is non-invasive, covers a lot of territory.
Yeah, you can find Dr. Randi Shannon at thebodycan.com. And basically that means the body can heal itself. And she helps with the analysis of what is going wrong with you in that. And here's one of the things, we're talking about osteoporosis of the skull, and that can manifest or let you know that it's happening based on a lot of different symptoms: your eyes, your teeth, your hearing, your nerve endings are being squeezed. It's not that you're getting old. It's that you have osteoporosis of the skull because of lack of nutrition. Okay. So, I looked at my family for many, many years, and I watched them smoke and drink coffee and run bars, and they lived to be in their 90s. And I thought to myself, well, what if I took that and didn't do any of what they're doing and just started doing more of the nutritional stuff? And I got to tell you, those of you out there who are listening, don't sit there and get depressed and say, well, I'm getting old. Never say that. What you want to say is, you know what, as I go into this era in my time here on Earth, let me start studying real nutrition, real deficiencies. And some of these things that you think are because you're getting older actually will start to reverse because you're now getting the right nutrition. So please reach out to Dr. Randi Shannon, and also pick up some of the books by Dr. Joel Wallach. What I want to talk about, I see, Randi, you want to add to this, so please jump right on in.
No, just make sure 844-275-1056. And, I just wanted to add, a lot of people out there have tinnitus, and I just want to add that to Dr. Wallach's osteoporosis
of the skull. Yep.
Right. So, and the list goes on and on and on. And, if you have, a lot of people get Botox and fillers in their face. That's huge today. When the cosmetic guy is saying, hey, make an angry face, and he's looking to see where those lines are, those are not wrinkles. Those are actual organs screaming out. And I tell my clients, because a lot of times, they'll come to me at like 60, 70, and I say, and they're ready to give up. They're like in that stage where they think, oh, well, I'm in my last 10, 15 years. No.
Yeah.
I do like a psychology session in a way with them and say, listen, you should be, there's people that are 90 years of age bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I mean, they are shredded. They're looking like
amazing.
Yeah. And they're not giving up on life. And they know they got another 30, 40, 50 years or more. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Wallach's holding up collagen peptides. Yeah. Collagen is a key ingredient. Yeah.
Yeah. Arteries, veins, skin, tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, cartilage.
Yeah.
Heart valves.
Do not give up. Do not quit.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I was at a high school class reunion maybe 10 years ago, and somebody walked up to me and they go, dude, how do you deal with the knee pain? And I just looked at them and I go, what are you talking about? And they go, knee pain, man. When you get to this age and your knees are bad. And I literally could not, I just didn't know what they were talking about. I literally don't have body pain like at all. I go to a chiropractor. I changed my bed, by the way. I have an adjustable bed that fits me perfect. And then the nutritional supplements, working out. And you don't have to work out heavy, like I did for 10 years. I did jujitsu and getting hit in the head. You can do yoga. You can go on a hike. You can, just integrate it into part of your regimen. I go to the park in the morning with a cup of something. I started doing the mud water. And so it doesn't have to be this major life shift change unless you're eating fast food all the time.
The best, hands down best thing on the actual planet Earth that we can get is the Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.5. It's the best. They want it wholesale. They just got to reach out.
And so it's the powder form.
Powder.
And the powder, and it comes in tangerine and peach, I believe. There's 2 different flavors. I was looking on the website recently.
Yeah, this is it has these 2 things together give it 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 acids, 3 fatty acids, and there's a lot of other strange things in there. Okay, so that's why it has 215 nutrients, including the basic 90.
Right.
Okay.
And if you don't have those, something is going to break.
Yeah, it is. I agree with it. But Dr. Wallach, I want you to finish up a little bit with this story. You had all these patients that were legally blind, and you helped reverse that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, basically, they had to get rid of all the bad foods so they could absorb no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, butter, rye, and oats. They can't have oatmeal for breakfast even one day a year, okay, let alone every morning. And then no carbonated drinks, even the diet ones got to go because carbonation neutralizes stomach acid, so you cannot absorb minerals or digest food. Don't drink alkaline water. Don't alkalize. That's all nonsense. And then you need to take what else here? Our rebounder sports drink with 100 nutrients in it, 75 minerals and 25 vitamins, amino acids. Most other sports drinks are just caffeine and sugar.
Yeah.
And so that's why all these professional athletes and university athletes, I mean, that's why we came up with these programs for athletes, because I'm seeing all these famous university athletes and Olympic athletes and professional athletes, and they're all coming to me by the hundreds, and we were able to save them. I have Kelly Herron. She's double, let's see here. She was an All-American. I think it's the University of Tennessee. Okay. A 2-time All-American. Theo Ratliff. Okay. 24 years old. They took his contract away from him at his Atlanta Hawks because he had osteoporosis of his knees and cartilage of his hip went away and he fractured his wrist. I rebuilt him with a healthy bone and joint pack. He came back, played for 11 years, made $100 million. Do you think he likes my products?
Yeah. So you reverse blindness in these people.
Yes, because it's due to osteoporosis of the skull, usually, because it's squeezing that optic nerve, the optic artery, and the optic vein. Now, there's many other things that can happen. You have not enough cholesterol, okay, and the hypothalamus, very important, requires a lot of cholesterol, and your sex hormones require a lot of cholesterol, okay,
Yeah.
and so you're looking at 95% of testosterone is cholesterol, 95% of estrogen is cholesterol. Do not get on statin drugs because you're going to have a very boring life.
Yeah, Time magazine, I think it was 15 years ago. I mean, it was a while ago. They did an expose on the cover where they talked about statin drugs and how they don't work. They actually harden the arteries and cause all kinds of problems, but they won't yank them off the market. So people are taking them thinking that cholesterol is bad. Yeah, that's money. But also that somehow, I got to get my cholesterol down and all this. And it really is, I read this a long time ago, the cholesterol myth. Basically, you have no sex drive if you don't have cholesterol in your body. I eat soft-boiled eggs every day.
Good. Guy your size should be eating 3 twice a day with soft yolks.
Yeah, there you go.
Remember, the amount of nutrition in that little egg in 26 days is enough to make a chicken.
Yeah. Well, there's 14 different types, and this is an old study probably, but there's 14 types of protein that are in the egg white that you need, that for the longest time they were telling you, get rid of we need the yellow and the white part of the egg. And if you don't get those, you really do have a problem. The egg is the most malaligned piece of food I've ever seen in my life. I used to work out at a real hardcore gym in New York City. Joe's Gym on Fresh Pond Road in Queens. I don't even know if it's still there, but we had guys there that were drinking eggs and eating eggs and everything, and they were in incredible shape. They'd go to the doctor, and the doctors, their cholesterol was fine. So what were they doing right? They were doing something right, and nobody could answer it because they come up with a theory, and then they make it a cement hard in stone rule. It seems like, and I don't understand why they do that, because you have proven without a shadow of a doubt that your work actually works. It reverses a lot of these problems. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on Awaken Nation.
We cannot thank you enough, and Dr. Randi, because this gives us an opportunity for you to get the story out there. You're getting the story out there is going to save a lot of Americans. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Is there anything you want to talk about in closing? Because I know, Randy, you have a lot of extraordinary patients that you're working with right now, and you've helped reverse what they call the incurables. And I know that this comes, it's kind of controversial because they won't allow you to say certain words on your website, but you do help people who have cancer and things like this.
Yeah. My thought is, and I always express this to my clients, and I have somewhere around, it's not even comparable to what Dr. Wallach actually touches, but somewhere around 5,000 people in the last year and a half. Okay. And my rule of thought is, and my experience is, if you were not born with it, it is reversible. Now, there is a point of no return if you let it go to the cliff itself. But even there, I've pulled several people back, and I actually did an interview that's on my site with the son of a woman who had stage 4 pancreatic cancer and was told he had less than 3 weeks to live. Wow. And by day 30, when they tested him, it had completely stopped. By day 75, it was already in reverse. And Dr. Wallach's protocols are what make this possible. And then it's my expertise of when I look at the face, the fingernails, tongue, and I see all the other organs that are out of balance, and I super target those. And if we get all those, the nutrients that they need, then there won't be any more robbing Peter to pay Paul going on in the body. Yeah.
And you taught me something that was probably, I thought I was pretty much in touch with my body and I was pretty healthy, but you said to me, for every year you had this problem, it would be about 2.5 months on these supplements to reverse it. And I started to realize it wasn't going away as fast as I thought. And I realized I might have been sick a lot longer than I realized, because like most people, we're just going along and we're looking to the left and we're looking to the right and we're going, I feel pretty good. And I'm just like my other colleagues around me, and I'm actually doing better than they are. The reality is I was BSing myself. I was probably sicker than I realized. The periodontal disease was, the effect of some of that. And also, you were helping to get rid of a mild infection that was in me that could have been caused by anything. It could have been caused by the osteoporosis, just tightening up the brain and everything else, because your body is going to react. Your body is the best machine ever built in existence because it's a biomechanical machine, and it tells you right away when there's something wrong immediately.
And you're the general, and you're going to march out the order. So what order are you going to march out?
Yeah.
So
Right.
food and the lack of vitamins, etc., and you're going to go prescriptions. Well, that's one order. Or you go our route and you give it everything that it wants so that it can create the white blood cells, the fighters, and just go reverse itself. We're not doing it. It's the body is getting what it wants.
You're giving it the support. Well, this is crazy because I heard somebody, a good friend who has become a friend late in life, he was bragging that he's in good health because his doctor had him on 5 prescriptions. And I just, face palm, kind of thing. And I was just, I don't know how we got turned around in this country when it comes to health. Because if you go to Japan or China or places like this where health is in the day to day and how they eat, and it's a very Zen thing. How do you prepare your food? How do you eat your food? How you spend time with food and nature. Whereas here in America, we have what's called the food industry, and they're manufacturing food. So we don't know what the ingredients are in the mysterious product called Doritos, but we do know it's probably not good for you. So I always say, if it comes in a box, it's probably not good for you, on a supermarket shelf. But somehow we've disconnected from our knowledge and our science and our intellect as a group. Because I mentioned to somebody the other day that the FDA, and this is an old statistic, by the way, the FDA has approved over 15,000 chemicals, carcinogenic chemicals, to go into our food products. And they go, "Where's your proof?" Immediately they get defensive. I said, just go to any supermarket, pick up the box, and read the ingredients. It's all it takes. It's a little bit of research and a little bit of knowledge. And you can start to realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be eating that. Maybe this yogurt trend, or maybe this pasta trend, or maybe this whatever trend they're pushing is not healthy for me. So thank you again for being on Awakened Nation. Randi, you have any thoughts before we leave today?
Just, take a look at your face, take a look at your nails, take a look at your tongue. If something doesn't look right, reach out. Don't ignore it. If you have signs, don't race to the medical doctor. Find a naturopathic doctor. Find me, find Dr. Wallach, and we'll get you on the right path.
And you don't need to rush out to get plastic surgery. You might just need something nutritionally done that can reverse it.
Pick up in a year if you just follow the path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Wallach, thank you also for being on the show. Anything you want to add to our show?
I just want to remind everybody, a disease like diabetes is not a genetic thing or not an immune thing. It's a simple nutritional deficiency. I don't care if you've had type 2 diabetes for 40 years. We can get rid of it in 2 to 6 weeks. It's a very simple nutritional deficiency. High blood pressure is not a genetic thing. I don't care. We get people who are on dialysis 6 days a week, okay? And we put them on our program, the 90 essential nutrients plus our ultimate daily classic tablets. And suddenly now, in 2 weeks' time, they drop their dialysis down to 3 days a week. And in 2 more weeks, they're totally off of dialysis after 10 years of being on dialysis 6 days a week. And so you give the body what it needs. And of course, Dr. Randi is saying it perfectly. You give the body what it needs, and the body will take it and heal itself.
Yeah. So true. So true. Dr. Randi Shannon, thank you for being on the show. Please go to her website, www.thebodycan.com. And Dr. Joel Wallach, 3 doctorates. and Nobel Prize recommended for your websites. Could you please tell us the one you had? Dr. J. Wallach.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
drjwallach.com.
Mm-hmm.
drjwallach.com. Okay, that's my main website for the books and CDs and DVDs.
Right.
And the toll-free number.
844-275-1056. 844-275-1056.
There you go.
Yeah. And if you call and you mention this show, you mentioned Brad, you will get the wholesale discount as well. So on these products, which I will put in the show notes. So thank you both. You've been extraordinary, and the work you're doing, God bless you. I mean, this is needed at this time. And I'm just so jazzed you've been on Awakened Nation. Thank you, both of you.
God bless you. Goodbye.
God bless you. And thank you, Brad. Thank you, Dr. Randi.
Thank you. Great to see you, Dr. Wallach, and you too, Brad, for sure.
Hey, everybody. Tune in next week for another awesome show. We're going to have another great guest. And support us on Instagram and also all the other social media platforms. Thank you. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.